Mr. Jeffs, did you rape those two girls? Warren Jeffs not answering any questions today on his way into a Texas courthouse where the 55-year-old polygamous prophet stands accused of sexually assaulting two underage girls, one under the age of 14, the other under the age of 17. Girls allegedly taken as plural brides by Jeffs at his gated compound known as the YFZ Ranch.
In the state of Texas, if you assault a minor, sexually assault a minor, you're going to be convicted and sent away to prison.
Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott on hand today as jury selection got underway in the town of San Angelo. Some 280 people called as prospective jurors in the high-profile case, a process we asked Jeff's new lead defense attorney Derek Walpole about during a noontime break. Any comment on how the morning went?
Not at this time.
Did you get a fair jury here?
I don't have any comments at this time.
Attorney General Abbott also guarded today when asked about specifics of the state's case, particularly when I asked about rumors that the state has some sort of audio recording of Mr. Jeffs allegedly sexually assaulting one of the young girls. Is there a recording of one of these sexual assaults?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into what the evidence may be at this particular stage. We will leave that up to the legal presentation that will be made in the coming days.
Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank
you
you.
very much. Mr. Jeffs, do you think you can get a fair trial here in Texas? You get a fair shake here? How you doing today, Mr. Jeffs? What do you think of the prospective jurors? If polygamous prophet Warren Jeffs has any strong feelings about the people being considered to sit on his jury, he certainly wasn't sharing those feelings on his way into court this morning. But out on the streets of San Angelo, Texas, where the story has been headline news for the last couple of years, lots of feelings, both pro and con. Could you be fair and impartial?
No, I could not.
Do you think Mr. Jeffs can get a fair trial here in San Angelo?
Absolutely.
You can get a fair trial anywhere in the U.S.
I'd say that probably 70% of the community is very against Jeffs.
Very against Jeffs.
Yes, sir.
It's a nationwide case. Everybody knows about it, so it's not like he could go somewhere where people wouldn't know who Warren Jeffs is or what Warren Jeffs did or didn't do.
I'm from California, and I've just been learning about the whole thing, so.
Could you be a fair juror?
Probably I could, because I'm not from around here.
I doubt if I could be impartial.
You couldn't be impartial?
No.
Your mind's made up?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think he's guilty.
I believe the city's very honest, so I'm hoping that he can get a fair trial here.
I think there's some good, honest people here.
And the negative publicity has not been so much that it would bias people against him?
I don't think so. I think there are people of integrity here in San Angelo.
Good morning, Mr. Jeffs. Are you ready for trial, sir? Polygamous prophet Warren Jeffs has directed his followers to, quote, answer them nothing when asked questions by the outside world. And once again today, following his own edict, Jeffs not answering my questions on his way into a Texas courthouse with a jury now selected in Jeff's sexual assault case. Today's courtroom action out of sight of the jury, centering on whether evidence gathered at Jeff's YFZ Ranch will be admitted during his trial, with Judge Barbara Walther ruling this afternoon that it will. Mr. Jeffs, how come you're fighting so hard to keep the stuff from the ranch out? Next up tomorrow, a hearing in the morning to decide if evidence taken from the Cadillac Escalade in which Jeffs was arrested in Nevada back in 2006 will be admitted during trial. Then opening arguments that could come as early as tomorrow afternoon, despite the claims of Jeff's legal defense team that they're just not ready. Any comment, gentlemen?
No comment.
You guys disappointed by what?
No comment.
Anything, sir?
No, thank you.
Sir, anything you want to say? You ready?
Nothing to say.
Nothing to say. Polygamous prophet Warren Steed Jeffs entered a Texas courthouse early this morning for what would turn out to be one of the most bizarre courtroom dramas in recent memory, starting with Jeffs standing before Judge Barbara Walther and a stunned audience, announcing, quote, I have released all my counsel. I desire to represent myself. Jeffs then went on to deliver a halting and rambling statement that was really more sermon than declaration, saying, quote, "I have released my counsel with great thought. I stand before this court presenting this need for the truth to be presented. My expression is sincere." Judge Walther then spent the next 30 minutes warning Jeffs of the risks of such a decision, calling it unwise and saying, quote, "I urge you not to follow this course of action." But Jeffs insisted, as is his right, and finally the judge relented. The jury then called in for the first time for opening statements, during which Chief Prosecutor Eric Nichols dropped a couple of bombshells, confirming what we have been reporting, that there is in fact an audio tape recorded while Jeffs was allegedly sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl, and that there is DNA evidence that he fathered a baby with a 15-year-old girl. Powerful evidence to prove the two charges against him, but then perhaps the most bizarre turn of events, as Jeffs, acting as his own lawyer, has not yet uttered a single word in court, foregoing opening arguments, sitting silently and alone at the defense table, head bowed as if he were in prayer. Mr. Jeffs, how's that lawyer thing working out for you? Polygamous prophet Warren Jeffs entered court this morning not commenting on his skills as a lawyer, skills clearly inadequate to overcome a Texas-sized tornado of evidence against him. The day started with Jeffs once again pleading with trial judge Barbara Walther for more time to prepare his defense and again being denied. Jeffs then once again called one of his faithful followers, J.D. Roundy, to the stand for what amounted to another hour-long Q&A on religious faith, punctuated by repeated objections from prosecutor Eric Nichols on grounds of relevance. And then, when Jeffs could not produce another witness, Judge Walther ruled the defense had rested. Prosecutor Nichols then gave the state's close, detailing his powerful case of volumes of written documents, DNA evidence, startling audio tapes of sexual training, and an actual sexual assault, calling on jurors to find Warren Jeffs guilty. Jeffs then got an opportunity to make his 30-minute close, but instead of delivering yet another sermon, Jeffs stood stone silent for the surreal half hour, at times staring at jurors and speaking only once about 23 minutes in, saying, "I am at peace." Jurors then given the case and taking less than 4 hours to find Warren Steed Jeffs guilty of sexually assaulting two young girls, ages 12 and 14. Chief Prosecutor Eric Nichols wrapping up the state's powerful case in a closing argument, reminding jurors of the volumes of document evidence showing Jeffs took the girls as plural brides, the DNA evidence showing Jeffs fathered a child with the 14-year-old victim, the shocking audio tapes of Jeffs sexually grooming his young victims, and the tape of the actual sexual assault of the 12-year-old girl. In his closing argument, Warren Jeffs, acting as his own lawyer, stood silent, staring at the jurors for 30 minutes, speaking only once, saying, "I am at peace." Afterwards, we talked to two men intimately familiar with the Texas prosecution, the editor of the paper in the town where Warren Jeffs' YFZ ranch is located, but first, Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott. You have invested a lot of your own personal effort and energy in this. Tell me your reaction.
Well, we're very, very pleased with what the jury came out with conviction on both counts. We believe that the conviction was justified by all of the evidence. We think it sends a big message across the state of Texas and across the United States that if someone comes to the state of Texas and tries to sexually assault two little girls, they're going to be investigated, prosecuted, and convicted.
Well, we've been following this group since 2004 when they first arrived in our community. Followed your work, which has been exceptional, and have tried to educate our public in our community as to who the FLDS are, who Warren Jeffs is. And after all of that, I'd have to say no, I'm not surprised by the verdict.
This is between me, you and God. That's what polygamous prophet Warren Jeffs reportedly warned a 5-year-old nephew after sexually assaulting the boy. The nephew, Brent Jeffs, now a man, telling his horrific story to jurors in his uncle's high-profile Texas trial. The story of allegedly being sodomized by Warren Jeffs when Brent was just a little boy.
I can't let this happen anymore. I can't let a man like Warren run around and ruin people's lives.
The graphic testimony presented by prosecutors as the same jury that found Warren Jeffs guilty last week of sexually assaulting 2 young girls now tries to decide just how much time Warren Jeffs should spend in prison. During this, the sentencing phase of Jeffs' trial, prosecutors also playing more audio tapes in which Warren Jeffs is once again reportedly heard sexually grooming some of his young underage plural brides, instructing the girls on ways of sexually gratifying him. And once again today, Warren Jeffs boycotting the proceedings after telling the court a couple of days ago that he could not sit by and listen as his faith is brought under attack in this Texas courtroom. Yeah, Patty, a Texas jury today hearing more sickening audio tapes of Warren Jeffs allegedly grooming and sexually assaulting more young female victims. They also heard from one of Mr. Jeffs' nephews telling jurors about the time the prophet allegedly sexually molested him. For jurors in Texas now deciding the fate of polygamous prophet Warren Jeffs, their act of civic duty must now feel more like a slog through a twisted and perverted nightmare. Last week, these same jurors found Warren Jeffs guilty of sexually assaulting 2 young girls. And now, as they try to decide just how many decades Warren Jeffs will spend in a Texas penitentiary, they are listening to prosecutors as those prosecutors present a mountain of evidence depicting what the prosecutors characterize as Jeffs' multitude of other alleged bad acts, including more sickening audio tapes of Warren Jeffs allegedly sexually grooming and assaulting more of his young underage plural brides.
I can't let this happen anymore. I can't let a man like Warren run around and ruin people's lives.
Jurors are also hearing from one of Jeffs' nephews, a young man named Brent Jeffs, telling the story how at the age of 5 he was allegedly sodomized by his much older Uncle Warren. Jurors could send Warren Jeffs to prison for well over 100 years. And once again today, Mr. Jeffs not in the Texas courtroom after announcing a couple of days ago that he could no longer sit by and listen as his faith and his church are put under the prosecutor's attack. Again, if convicted, Warren Jeffs could spend more than a century behind bars. We will, of course, continue to monitor. Mr. Jeffs, are you ready for prison? If Warren Jeffs had any feelings or any doubts about being sent to prison, as is his custom, he wasn't sharing them on his way into court this morning, where a Texas jury of 2 men and 10 women took less than a half hour to hand the so-called polygamous prophet the maximum sentence for sexually assaulting 2 young girls, a whopping 119 years in a Lone Star State prison.
The lives of hundreds, if not thousands of persons have been directly and adversely harmed by this one person.
Chief Prosecutor Eric Nichols, who led the presentation of the state's powerful and persuasive case, remembering Jeff's many victims following today's sentencing. One of those victims who testified during the sentencing phase, Warren Jeffs' nephew Brent Jeffs, who at the tender age of 7 was sodomized by his Uncle Warren.
I was a victim of him, but now I can stand 10 feet tall and say, you are where you belong, and I'm able to let go of all this and move on with my life.
I'm happy he has received the maximum.
Warren Jeffs' older sister, Elaine, also on hand for the Texas trial and saying her brother got what he deserved.
He's a pervert, and the crazy thing is he perverted his own religion. and he dragged his victims into this perverted abyss with him.
Another key player in this bizarre courtroom drama, Rebecca Musser, who as a teen became the 19th plural wife of Warren Jeffs' elderly father, Rulon Jeffs, this before fleeing the religion and then assisting prosecutors, and today her thoughts with her family and friends still on the inside.
Whether the currency is God or greed, the trafficking of women and children for sex is a form of slavery. If it continues to happen in the FLDS, it continues to happen in our nation.
Justice has arrived for Warren Steed Jeffs, who we expect to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Texas Special Prosecutor Eric Nichols today speaking for the many men and women who have had a hand in the successful prosecution of polygamous prophet Warren Steed Jeffs, just moments after a Texas jury handed Jeffs the maximum sentence for sexually assaulting 2 young girls, a whopping 119 years in a Lone Star State prison.
Rarely, if ever, in the criminal justice system in Texas have we ever encountered a person such as Warren Jeffs, whose criminal conduct spans decades, multiple jurisdictions, and hundreds of victims.
One of those victims brave enough to testify in this, the sentencing phase of the trial, Warren Jeffs' nephew, Brent Jeffs, who, at the tender age of 7, was sexually assaulted by his Uncle Warren.
I was a victim of him, but now I can stand 10 feet tall and say, you are where you belong, and I'm able to let go of all this and move on with my life.
Now that the secret is out, it is a time for healing. It is a time for change.
Another key player in this bizarre and painful courtroom drama, Rebecca Musser. As a teen, Musser was given as a 19th plural bride to Warren Jeffs' elderly father, Rulon Jeffs, this before fleeing the religion and then assisting prosecutors in both Utah and Texas, and today Musser delivering a powerful and passionate message to her family and friends who are still on the inside.
My greatest desire is for every man, woman, and child to understand their God-given human right to own themselves and to claim their power to choose.
As we reported earlier, they don't waste any time here in the Lone Star State. After the sentencing, Mr. Jeffs was loaded onto an airplane and taken to Huntsville, Texas, the location of the prison where he in all likelihood will spend the rest of his life. It's been a long and difficult journey to get to this point, and hopefully it will mean something positive and beneficial for the women and children still inside that closed community. In San Angelo, Texas, I'm Mike Watkis.